What's up, otakus? It's your tour guide here, and we're doing another video. This one is, I recently saw a video posted by Raphaus, and I'm gonna link his channel in the description of this video below. So go check out Raphaus. He's, just a community member. Got a very cool collection. I gotta say, we're kind of we're in the same sort of copper, I think the Copper Age is where our sweet spot is for collecting, and he's collecting Fantastic Four. He has a great Wolverine collection, so kind of the same kind of stuff I guess I am collecting. I definitely am. I'm not trying to fill out the 200s for Fantastic Four, but I am trying to pick up more of the John Byrne run, and it was a very extensive run, so a lot of issues to pick up there, but definitely trying to pick up more John Byrne books, Neil Adams books, Jim Lee books, Peach Momoko books. I'm really sort of artiste focused in my collection, although I'm telling you, if they're nostalgic books for me, I'll try to pick them up as well. And that brings me to a good point. I recently saw a post on the Trending 20. Apparently, there's this surging demand of 90s books, meaning Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee. They recently had signings as well. Maybe that had a little to do with it. But the signings are prompting collectors to go out and look for those 90s books and keys. And I think it's extending past McFarlane and Lee into all those sort of 90s top artists like Liefeld, Silvestri, Larson, Sinkovich, John Romita Jr., just the sort of the guys who were at the peak of the game in the 90s, because that was really, I feel like the 90s were as bad as it was for the hobby in terms of the print runs and the counts, and just the plethora of books coming out. You gotta realize that the image, the fact that there was another independent publisher that was now in the space of Marvel and DC. You had Dark Horse. You had just a lot of content coming out. It was adult-oriented content. It was a good time to be a collector because there was just it kind of set the stage for what is currently the modern market. With all the gimmicks, talk about gimmicks. Talk about a limited edition, one-shots, limited edition series, that all was kind of it all kind of exploded in the 90s in one massive, I want to say just output of content. They were just pumping books out, So it was a good time to be, I think it was a good time to be a comic book reader and consumer of content, but it wasn't necessarily good for the hobby in terms of book values. But we're seeing a shift in that now, because now collectors are realizing, hey, this is probably the really the 90s, you could say, is they're modern books, but they're their own sort of era of comic book collecting. I almost want to say it's you have the Copper Age, then you have the 90s, then you have modern books. Because 90s, it's just, if you look at the 90s, there's a lot of innovation going on in terms of the materials colors that they were being used, the cover. I mean, you know, those holograms they were using. Come on, we need to go back to those holograms. Those holograms are awesome. You had comic book cards coming in for the first time in comics. You know, you had just a lot of things going on. But what else did we have? We had the die-cut covers. We had multiple variant issues. You know, sort of the high ratio variants were kind of like introduced in the 90s. And of course, Image was doing all kinds of you know, gimmicky stuff with Wizard and like mail-ins and all kinds of stuff. So I mean, I want to say the 90s was like the innovative period for the comic book. And I've been saying this for forever on my channel. The 90s, just as an era, aside from comic books, we're talking about like just collecting cards, toys, everything just kind of became, you know, in the 90s became more geared toward adult hobbyists, comic books included. And so, yeah, it's good to see, but at the same time, there's a lot of books I still have to pick up, so I don't want to see prices, because I've been happy to pick up Jim Lee books for like $1 or $2 at LCS. I've been happy to pick up, you know, like McFarlane books, $2, $3 for the longest time. Even this Eric Larson run of Spider-Man, you can find certain books in the Larson run for like, you know, reasonable prices. But my fear now is like everything like post 87, when these guys are really kind of going at it, to like about the mid 90s, or even maybe through the late 90s. We're talking about like a 87 to 97. I want to say is like this period of quote unquote the 90s age, and so it's a late copper to, you know, early modern, that I want to put this kind of classify as the 90s age. It doesn't sound like a good name, but we got to put an age to it, because that's what we do, and it's got to be associated with like a metal. So what was a good 90s metal band? I guess Anthrax, the Anthrax Age. What's another 90s metal? Metallica Age. That's a good one, Metallica. Although Metallica is a lot earlier than just 90s, of course, but they really kind of flourished. Their best stuff was in the 90s, I guess you can. So anyway, make a suggestion on what you think this 90s age should be named in the comic book, because I really think it's a thing. We need to push it. We need to push for a different designation than like copper and modern. This 90s age is a real thing. I think it has a lot of legs in terms of collecting value. Obviously, you're going to be able to find a lot of these books, okay? That's not a problem. But there are ways, I think, where you start to draw the distinction in terms of collectability are the higher grade books. Because you got a lot of books out there, but the ones that are high grade, I mean, we're talking, it's been a good 30 years, right? It's been a good 30 years since these, it will be approaching 30 years on some of these later books, but for, you know, like a book like this is a 30-year book now. 30-year book. So a 30-year book has to survive in high grade. And there are a lot of high grade copies out there. So this is not necessarily a book that will command too high of a value, but you know, I've seen this I've seen people selling this for like $2-3. You know, I'll buy that all day, every day if it's high grade. But you know, I think, and people are starting to realize, like, hey, that's a $20 book. Okay, it's high grade. It's a $20 book. So pick it up for $2 if you find it. And people are hanging on to them. Like, I still have all my original. I don't have all my original copies. I had 3 of my original copies. I never got to finish the entire run, so I did pick them up though eventually. So okay, today's in honor of the 90s. We're gonna go back. We're gonna celebrate probably the best thing to come out of the 90s in terms of a character that really sort of epitomizes this era. Because I mean, all these great comic books that came out in the 90s, the Image stuff literally was born out of the 90s. But what I'm saying is, like, if you're looking at a comic book character that remains popular to this day, and that was born out of this period, like, again, 87 through 97, we're going to celebrate her because she's the best, again, the best thing to come out of this Metallica Age. Now, I'm going to call it the Metallica Age because it's just so blaringly in your face awesome. Okay. So it's Psylocke. It's the Psylocke. And Psylocke, as you know, wasn't so cool until Jim Lee came along. And it was this issue right here. This probably could be on my list as well, but we're going to keep it off the list for now. But it was in this issue. X-Men 256, that Psylocke makes her debut. And on the cover, she appears in this like metallic, like armor kind of thing, which is cool looking, I guess. But that's not the Psylocke we celebrate. No, we don't celebrate metallic Psylocke. We celebrate, and again, she's introduced in her awesome costume design that Jim Lee. So Jim Lee does 2 things. He gives her this really badass character redesign with the new costume. So it's not just a design. It's not just a visual design. It's a change in the character's like abilities and just like overall personality. So she was like, before Betsy Braddock was this sort of like, you know, like this, she wasn't really tough. She kind of just stood in the background and did all these like psychic attacks and whatnot. But this is the episode where we get just like a ninja assassin, like Elektra, like transformation of the character, and she becomes Asian. Those are the 2 things. Those are the 2 big things, like the costume, and she's Asian now. And we can thank Jim Lee for that transformation. Okay, so it happens in this episode. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go over the top 10 Psylocke covers in my collection. I hope you enjoy it. Now, Psylocke is not somebody I like actively collect because, first of all, she's never really had her own solo title, which I find to be weird. You would think she would have. She's one of the main X-Men characters, and all the X-Men characters at some point have had some kind of solo series or solo story. But we actually got a Psylocke story, but it's a little off kilter, but we'll get to that. So So again, this is my top 10 Psylocke covers, and I'm going to start with a book I already showed off. And I had number 10, X-Men number 1, the Psylocke cover. I think this is 1B. And she's looking glorious right there. She is looking glorious. Now, this is my signed copy. Jim Lee 90 signature, and Stan the Man. And while this isn't my favorite cover of this 5, partly because, outside of Psylocke, these aren't like some of my favorite characters, like Colossus, Rogue, Gambit. They're not some of my favorites. So this is not. I mean, Psylocke's the best part of this cover. Don't get me wrong. And if they just blew her up, that would probably be my favorite cover in this. The 5 out of the 4 gatefold covers. But yeah, Psylocke number 10, X-Men number 1. All right, so we're getting good. Now, number 9 on my list, we have 257. Okay, and that's just an awesome picture of her with the psychic knife, the Psy knife. I don't know what they call it. I forgot what they call it, the psychic knife, the Psy knife. But you can see right there, like Wolverine is scared poopless right there. He's scared poopless. And he's probably pooping his pants as we speak. That's how scared he is. Just awesome. Now, almost all of these are going to be Jim Lee covers. Just preparing you. These are mostly Jim Lee covers. The next is another favorite cover of mine. This is by the David Nakayama, DNA. Awesome X-Men 92 cover. Just so you have the full glory of the 90s X-Men right there. Another reason why the 90s were just the best. We got, Batman the animated series. We got X-Men the animated series. We even got Spawn. I mean, come on. Like, the 90s just was the best period in terms of what we got. And to that list, you got, for me, I don't know about for you guys, but for me, Psylocke. Boom. She's looking badass right there. David, you knocked it out of the park. Knocked it out of the park with this cover. X-Men 92, number 10. This is David Nakayama's run on that fun book, taking us back to the 92. The next one, again, with the psychic knife again here, we have X-Men 3, Volume 2-3. This is just a great cover, great action cover with all the X-Men fighting each other, and you have the other 2 psychic attack specialists, but you have really Jean Grey's no match for Psylocke. Looking great there with the psychic knife again. Awesome cover. Yep. So that was number 7. Here's number 6. She's just looking real good there as well. In these, like, they call them X-Space suits. It's like X-Men trying to be Fantastic Four or something. Like jumpsuits. I think they look cool, to be honest. I mean, if you're getting ready for battle and stuff, I think it helps to look like a coordinated team, I guess. Wear the team colors. But yeah, look at how good she looks right there. No one can draw Psylocke like Jim. Jim has patent on Psylocke. People can try. People do draw a good Psylocke. Don't get me wrong. But Jim has the patent on Psylocke since he created the character. Now, this one is a great cover. Again, just one of my favorite covers of all time. Not just of Psylocke, but of the team, and it's a really underappreciated book. It's definitely not an underappreciated cover. This cover is everywhere. It's one of those like commercial images that are on T-shirts, lunchboxes, like you name it, it's on it. But Jim Lee's X-Men Annual #1. This is, I don't think you can get any more reminiscent and representative of the 90s than this book. If you're talking about that initial Jim Lee X-Men run 1 through 11, okay, this is what wraps it up. The annual came out in May, right in the middle of that run. So the interior's not Jim Lee, but the cover definitely is. Look how good that cover. Look how good Psylocke looks there, just running out with the knife, the side knife. Oh, yes. All right, now we're down to number 4, and this is going to probably be the favorite of a lot of you out there, but it's X-Men #6. This is a great cover. Sabretooth. Look how awesome she looks. She's got 2 swords. She's holding a staff, some kind of like spear staff. This looking great. And that costume, man. Come on, Jim. You're killing us, Jim. You're killing us. Alright, so X-Men #6. Now this is a book I'm going to put on a lot of people's radar. And if you like Psylocke like I do, and you want to start collecting, or maybe you already have an extensive collection of Psylocke, but I'd encourage you to collect those key Psylocke books. And none of these are really key Psylocke books in the top 10. These are just the best covers. But there are a lot of Betsy Braddock Psylocke / key books. So I think they go all the way back to like Captain Britain is where Betsy Braddock makes her first appearance. So those are actually would be nice books to pick up because I think they do have a lot of value, and they're sort of undervalued. But for me, it's just about this era of the character, and this is something I think a lot of people just sleep on or they don't realize is X-Men 261. And the significance of this book is it's actually the first cover of Psylocke in her new costume. So this design remains today. Okay. And that's pretty significant if you think about like a character's design that, like if you look at Spider-Man's costume, Spider-Man's costume doesn't even go 2-3 years without some kind of reboot. Iron Man constantly being rebooted. Even Wolverine to a degree, the yellow suit comes and goes, but if you look at he's just kind of sort of all over the place with his character design. They have Old Man Logan, they have Wolverine in the yellow suit, Wolverine in the brown suit. It's just kind of all over the place. They have new kind of reiterations of X-23, different Wolverines coming out. So it's kind of cool when a character design is so popular or it's so ingrained in the identity of the character that it just remains, right? And that's where we are with Psylocke. Psylocke's, this costume has survived. When did this book come out? 89, I want to say. 88, is it? Sorry, this is 90. This is 1990. So, we're talking about 1990 costume design that has survived 22 years. It'll probably survive 30 years because I don't know any comic book collector. I don't know. I'm sure you'll have an artist that'll want to redesign Psylocke's costume, and that would be a horrible idea. But for whoever has the cojones to do that, by all means do it, and they'll get the backlash from people like me. But this is again first Psylocke cover in the new costume. Her previous, so when they introduced her new persona and design, it's not on those covers. She's wearing that metallic suit again. No one likes that metallic suit. So this is the first time we see the suit that we want to see. Yes. So go out and get X-Men 261 if you don't have it. These 90s books are spiking, unfortunately. I'm glad I picked them all up, but I wanted to pick up more, and I don't know if I'll be able to do that without having to pay now. We'll have to see. But this is the kind of book that used to be like you could get it for $1, you could get it for $2 at your local LCS, and I just hope that remains the case. But if it goes up, it's not the end of the world either. I mean, I have the books, but hopefully you get yours. I know now a lot of you are probably going, I want that one now, yeah. First, and again, Jim makes her look so Asian on this cover. It's like there's no mistaking that's not the Psylocke your grandpa grew on. Okay, this is the Psylocke for Generation X. That's Generation X's Psylocke right there. Glory. And so, we had number 4, awesome cover. Number 3, her first debut of the new costume cover, 261. All right, so we're down to our last 2 books, and for those of you who follow me and keep up with what I'm doing, you probably know what number 1 is, but I'll just keep you in suspense for those of you who aren't familiar. But this number 2 is actually a book I think needs to get more love. I mean, let me rephrase that. It's a book I think is significant if you're a Peach Momoko fan. If you're a Peach Momoko fan, this book is just hugely, I want to say it's the best representation of her talent than anything else out there. Okay, it's her best book, and that is Demon Days X-Men. Now this is her original story. She wrote it, she did the interior, and she did the cover for this. So this book right here, I know it has various varying covers and different iterations, but get this one, this specific one. This is her classic cover, Demon Days, the first issue, and we have Psy. So this is sort of like a multiverse type story. It's an alternative universe set in sort of traditional Japan. Japan, and although, you know, we don't get the connection that this is Psylocke per se, it is a multiverse version of Psylocke in Japan, a Japanese version of her. So she's this just sort of like I guess the best way to describe her is just kind of like the lone wolf and cub. She's just this wanderer, warrior, samurai type, ninja samurai type character, and she battles Oni, which are, you know, traditional Japanese demons. And it's a great story because it weaves in, again, the traditional Japanese like folk tale like aspect, and it's, you know, again, Peach brings her cultural energies into the book because it is about the story is set in Japan. It's set in, you know, it's set in feudalist Japan. So it's just a great story, art, and really the sort of, now it's not her first story in American comics, it's not her first work in comics, but it's the next, she has an original story in Heavy Metal 288, okay? Outside of that, this is her next story in American comics, okay? So up to now, she's been doing just covers and covers and covers and covers. And finally, we get a book by her. And this book is still, you know, it's had a good run. It was widely popular. But, you know, I can see how it's not everybody's cup of tea. Peach is not everybody's cup of tea. That's fine. That's fine. But for me, she is my cup of tea, so I'll drink this all day. And that's, again, Psylocke with the purple, like, I want to say it's almost like a violet hair color. And Peach gives her a redesign here of the costume, which, again, like I was mentioning earlier, it takes a lot of cojones to do that without pissing off fans, but I think the essence of Jim's design remains in this, you know, in the new costume. I think it actually looks as good, if not better, than Jim's, because she's got, again, the Japanese, garb on there, Japanese style garb, and looks really, really seductive and deadly, which is essentially what Elektra is, right? We love her because she's seductive and deadly. Okay. I mentioned in my videos before that Jim Lee, when he came up with this character, I think he based her largely off the Elektra design. You know, Elektra's in red, looks very similar. It's got the headscarf and all that, but he kind of, you know, deconstructed that Elektra character, captured all her essence in terms of being this deadly warrior, but also someone who had a lot of allure, and that's, and we got Psylocke. We just got that sleek, dark navy look, very just down to the basics design. This long black, straight black hair, with the swords, kind of like, I mean, you know, it's a little bit on the, you know, the fetishizing of like stereotypes, but, because Jim did it. It's kind of like it's right on that line, I think, of what's kind of acceptable. And again, he made her such a powerful character. It's just unfortunate a lot of fanboys would objectify her like that. Anyway, we're getting to my number one, okay? And I just showed this comic off in my last haul video, so for those of you who watched it, you already know what's coming. But for those of you who haven't had a chance to watch it, you're in store for a surprise. And that is Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man number 2? It's the last place you'd expect to find Psylocke, but that's where we find her. Oh, and man, is this cover just the best. Oh my god, I could stare at this all day, to be honest. I could just stare at it all day. There's so much going on here on the cover that's just glorious. Now, there is a version cover of this, and I think I want that. I think I want to get the version cover because, to be honest, Peter, nothing wrong. I love Spider-Man. I love Peter Parker. I just don't want that on my Electra cover. On my Psylocke covers. Okay, so I'd like to get a copy of this, just a version copy of this with all that removed, and just Electra in her full. I keep saying Electra. Psylocke in her full glory. I love Electra too. Don't get me wrong. I love Psylocke Electra. I just love that kind of character, yeah. So glad to have you. The girl is mine. Psylocke is mine now. All right, so that was my top 10. And this is in response again to Raphael's. He did his top 10 Wolverine covers, so shout out to Raphael's. He did that in response to our Slim and my video, showcasing our top 10 Wolverine covers. But when I saw his Raphael's Wolverine video most recently, I think it was today he posted it. When I saw it today, I was inspired to put out another one, and so this is it. I got the Psylocke, and there are a lot of Psylocke covers and a lot of modern Psylocke covers, and believe you me, there's a lot of good covers. I'm just thinking of some of the ones maybe Art Germ has done. There's just a lot of Psylocke covers out there. So if you feel inspired to do your own top 10 Psylocke covers, just give me a shout out, and I'd love to check out and tag me or do something so I can watch it as well. I'd love to see what people think of this character, because I know I'm not the only one that shares this love for Psylocke. I'm sure a lot of you out there do as well, especially a lot of you who went through puberty during this period. Probably did as well. But yeah, we love Psylocke, and I'm looking forward to seeing those videos. Alright, well, thanks for watching my video. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.